In this video, I'm going to walk you through what retirement might look like if you're 60 years old and have $1 million in your portfolio. Hey everybody, I'm James Knoll, founder of Root Financial Partners, and I'm here to teach you what you need to know to create a secure retirement. Well, when people think about retirement, what they oftentimes think about is just their portfolio value. What's the amount of income this portfolio can create for me, and is that enough to sustain my lifestyle? Let's take a look. Let's illustrate what this might look like, and more importantly, let's illustrate some important planning points that you need to be aware of if you're looking to retire at age 60. So here's what most people start with, is they'll say, I've got my portfolio here, and maybe I'm invested in different types of funds. Maybe I have some large companies and some international companies, maybe some bonds, maybe some whatever it might be, small companies. You're diversified and you want to know how much can this portfolio create for you. Well, the first place we want to start is we want to understand what's the withdrawal rate that you can take out of that portfolio to be okay for the rest of your life. Well, if you've watched some other videos that I've done, you understand that maybe, depending on how you're structuring your portfolio, 4 to 5.5% or so is a good starting point, where if your portfolio is invested that way, that's how much income you can create. Let's use 5% for the sake of this. Let's assume you want to take 5% out of your portfolio each year. Well, that equals $50,000. So you have a portfolio of $1 million, maybe that can create $50,000 per year for you throughout retirement. But that's not where we want to stop. What this doesn't factor in is things like Social Security, things like pensions, things like other income sources that are also going to go a long way in helping you to create that retirement lifestyle that you want. So here's how you should actually be looking at it. Don't look at it like one big portfolio and how much income can that create for me. Look at it more like this. What you really need to do is you need to start combining this with other income sources. And by the way, while I'm doing this, comment below how much you think you might need to have in your portfolio to retire. Is it $1 million? Is it $100,000? Is it $3 million? I want to understand, or I want to know how much you think you might need to have. While you're doing that, here's how I like to look at this challenge. Here we have expenses on this axis, and we have time right here. So you as an investor, let's assume that you are here. You're saying, I'm here at 60 years old, and I have a portfolio, and I need this portfolio to last me a good amount of time. And so what we're looking at here is just different time horizons along the way. Well, with your expenses, whatever they are, whether for you it's $50,000 per year, $100,000 per year, might be more, might be less. Again, comment below what you think it might be. What we're doing here is you have your expenses that are going to be doing something like this. So here's your expenses. Well, with retirement, it's not completely up to your portfolio to generate every last dollar of income that you're going to need to live on. What we also want to look at is things like this. It's what about your Social Security? What if you retire at 60, but maybe you're not going to collect Social Security until 67? Well, at 67, here's an income source that you're going to have. Let's call this your Social Security. Now let's also assume, just to make this a fun exercise, maybe your spouse and you have a significant age difference. You know, and let's not say significant, let's just say maybe 7 years. Let's assume you and your spouse have an age gap of 7 years, which means they collect their Social Security benefit here, and that's another layer of income. Well, what you're starting to see is your portfolio doesn't just need to create one consistent level of income that adjusts for inflation over time. It needs to create different sources of income. You need it to do something here where it's maybe covering 100% of your living expenses. Then maybe your Social Security benefit starts right here, which means your portfolio is still creating income, but as you can see, it's less of an income need. And by the time that your spouse collects their Social Security benefit, it's even less coming from your portfolio. This is a more common way that people are actually approaching retirement. It's not a consistent need from their portfolio, it's a varying need from their portfolio. So what should you do? Well, the first thing I recommend is almost look at this like different sections throughout retirement, where you might call this a section, you might call this buckets, you can call it whatever you want. But if we call this retirement section number 1, probably better ways to title this. Here's section number 1, here's section number 2, and here's section number 3. What we're really looking at is section number 1 is maybe years 1 through 7. Section number 2 is maybe years 8 through 15, and section number 3 is years 15 and beyond. Well, why does that matter? Because investing is all about understanding your time horizon. If you only have a short amount of time to invest, there's no guarantee, there's very little certainty that you're going to have a positive outcome. You can invest money today, and if you need that money in a week or a month or a year even, there's a pretty high likelihood that that money goes down in value for you. Whereas if you're investing money for a decade or more, somewhere in section 3 perhaps, there's a very, very high likelihood that that money is going to grow for you even if invested aggressively, assuming it's prudently diversified. So the reason that we do this is if we're now carving up your $1 million, we need to say, here's your portfolio. How much of that needs to be allocated to section number 1? And how does that section need to be invested? Because it's probably a little bit more conservative than you need to invest section number 3. Then how much of that should be allocated to section 2? How much of that should be allocated to section 3? What you're essentially doing is you're time segmenting your retirement, and you're time segmenting it based upon when your other income sources are coming into play. Again, your Social Security is starting here. Your spouse's is starting here in this example. That $1 million that you have is not creating a consistent level of income. It might be creating, if $50,000 is the average, maybe it's creating $70,000 or $80,000 per year for these first few years, just as an example. Maybe it's creating $45,000 per year in the second segment, and maybe it's creating something like $20,000 per year in this third segment. I'm just making up these numbers, but that's an example of what we need to look at. So for you as an investor, you need to understand, okay, for this section number 1, how do I need to allocate this portion of my money? Maybe something that's a little bit more conservative, because this is what I'm living on today. I can't afford for a major market downturn to ruin my ability to meet my living expense needs in these years here. Maybe for section number 2 or segment number 2, maybe this is a little bit more growth or moderate growth type of a portfolio because I have a little bit longer time horizon until I need these funds. And finally, segment or section number 3, maybe this is invested a little bit more aggressively. The reason for that is I have time on my side. Even if there's a market downturn next year, the year after, there might be a couple market downturns between the time you need that money and now, you have a long enough time horizon for that to recover. So once you've gone through this exercise and you understand how to segment each portion of your money based on other income sources coming in, what you're doing is once you understand how each allocation works, these should all then tie back in to how your investment portfolio is invested today. You don't necessarily need 3 separate investment accounts or 3 separate portfolios, but you do need to understand how does your portfolio, let's say it has $1 million in it, how does that cover your needs for years 1 through 7? How does that cover your needs for years 8 through 15, for years 15 and beyond, to make sure that you have a retirement plan that adjusts for the ups and downs of different income sources throughout retirement, that adjusts for the different expenses you're going to have throughout retirement, to give you a smooth, consistent experience and to ensure you can do everything that you want to do to have an enjoyable retirement. As part of this exercise, you'll understand how much you need to save to be on track for retirement. What oftentimes people don't think about is when can they stop saving? When have they reached the point where they have enough in savings and investments that they no longer need to keep saving for retirement and can now begin to focus on spending? Be sure to check out this video above so you can understand when you can stop saving for your retirement. Thanks for watching. This is James Knoll with Root Financial Partners. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to share it with someone else who you think would benefit from this information. And also, please be sure to like and subscribe for more content just like this. Finally, if you'd like to see how we help clients create a secure retirement, be sure to check out our website at rootfinancialpartners.com.